Alright, now that we did all the preparing, it's time to start with logging in with our newly created user. And for this we will use Laravel Sanctum, which is a package that comes with Laravel. And let's head to the installation instructions. Now, Laravel Sanctum should be present in the required packages when you installed your Laravel application. But if for some reason it wasn't included, you need to run the composer require command and the following steps. But if it already was, you can jump ahead to this piece with the API configuration in the HTTP kernel. So let's go there, and under the API key in the middleware groups, you see that this ensure front-end requests are stateful is commented out, and we need to enable that. Now, with that set up, we can create a new controller for our authentication. So let's run the PHP artisan make command, and we're gonna make a controller called auth controller. Alright, and let's set up a route for that in our API routes. Now this is gonna be a post request, and the URI is gonna be login, and as an action we want to reference the auth controller, and the action that we'll call will be named login as well. So let's go to this controller now and implement this login action. And as a parameter, it will need the standard request. All right. Let's get started here. So the first thing that we want to do is validate the request data that is posted to us. So let's do that using Laravel's request validation. And what we want to check for is an email address. And this is required. And it should be a valid email address. And second, we need a password, which is required. And we're not gonna bother with minimum or maximum amount of characters here, because that's for signing up users. So next we wanna check whether this user actually exists in our database. Otherwise we have nothing or no one to sign in actually. So we're gonna make an if statement for that and use the auth facade from Laravel to check if we can sign in, and we can pass the validated request data as an argument. Now if this attempt fails, then we want to return a 401 status. So add a response, and this is going to be JSON data. And as a message, we'll pass login information invalid. And as a second argument to this JSON function, we need to pass a status code because the default 200 is not suitable in this case. So it's going to be a 401 status. Now, if this attempt did succeed, then we know that we have a valid user. So we can get the user using the email address that we received in the validated request data. So we'll find that user using the email address in the validated request data. And we'll need to add the first here. And as a response, we'll add JSON again. And what we will return is the access token for this user. We'll need to create one actually. Create token, and this needs to have a name as an argument. Let's give you some more space. And we want to return the plain text token. And secondly, we want to add the token type here. And this is a bearer token. And don't forget the semicolons. All right, let's go to Postman and see how this works. So for this request we need an email, and let's use a test email for now, and a password. Right, send a request, and we get at first error message because this is not a valid user in our database. Now let's go back to the user that we just created in the previous video and use this example email address of the user that actually is in our database. Go back to Postman, use that. And also note, by the way, that in our user factory, Laravel uses password as a password for all the users that are created using that factory. So we can log in like this and we get a bearer token back. Now also note that in our API routes, there already was a example request added. So this will return the actually signed in user. And now that we have authentication set up, we can test this route out. So let's add a new folder in Postman for the user. And in here, add a request, which is a GET request. And that is to API/user. And in the headers, what we need first is once again the accept key, application JSON, and second is the authentication token. HTTP header is called authorization, and we'll add bearer because we're using a bearer token, and paste in the token that we just got returned. We now send this request, then we get the user information of the user that we created, and this request is authenticated using Laravel Sanctum. Now if we keep this token out of the request, then you'll notice that we get an unauthenticated error with a 401 status code. So that seems to work alright. I hope to see you in the next video.